Alrighty, folks, it's a tough subject, the podcast. I am Dennis Gillan, and that is Jessica Seel. Jessica, how you doing today?
Good. It's so far been a good week for me. How about you?
Good week, good day. I'm better. I had vertigo this weekend. I don't know if you've ever had that.
Oh,
No
yes.
bueno. No bueno. Not good. I'm feeling good today. It's amazing what your health does to your mental health. Sunday was a wash for me. I woke up
Mm,
dizzy and no good, but I'm
mm.
back.
Good.
I hope that never comes back. And it almost prevented me from coming into work Monday. And that's a subject we want to talk about today, workplace suicide prevention. You have some thoughts on that?
I do. I do. I had something kind of painful happen last week. You know, we say this all the time. For some reason, when something happens around suicide loss, somebody contacts us, right? I had a former employer lost a person there at the office that during the work hours. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So at
Yeah.
work,
Yes.
there is a suicide.
Yes.
Oh, that's
Yes.
so traumatic for everybody, including the family of the deceased. God rest her soul.
Yes. Yes.
It was a her, right?
So it was a mother. And I have to tell you something that really stuck out to me, a couple things. Number one, when I was telling a family member, they said immediately, how selfish. And Dennis,
You
you know,
punched him
my
in the
head
throat.
spun around about 10 times, but we have to remember to meet people where they are, that not everybody understands, but we just have to bring them there, right? And so that's true for coworkers. It's not
Man,
something you expect to go into work and see.
when greeted with a crazy statement like that, like how selfish, because we don't know the state of the mind of the person, we have to give grace. How did you handle that? Old Dennis would punch him in the throat. New Dennis would ask a question. I'd ask him to expound on it. I want to, let me dig the hole deeper. I would say, why, what are your thoughts on that? Trying to be like really diplomatic, but I'm trying to set like a snare. What are your thoughts on that? How do you handle that?
Well, it was a very close family member that didn't experience what I experienced with my dad, but knows about my dad. So, like we always say, Dennis lost two of his brothers. I lost my father to suicide. But I can tell you that I had to take a moment. I wanted to punch, but I didn't.
Yeah.
My question to her, my response, I wish I would have asked what you said, was, well, you also have to think about what her mind, where she must have been, what kind of place she was in at that point. You're thinking like we would. That's not fair. She obviously was not in the same state of mind that we were in. And if somebody gets to that point of desperation, I mean, how sad is that?
Yeah, they're not in their right mind. That's a fair statement. They're just not thinking clearly. For the logical, here we are sitting, on a podcast we've had our breakfast, we're fully caffeinated, and we're logically thinking, but put yourself in a crisis, you're not thinking logically. Nothing makes sense. And the only thing that does make sense is the world would be better off without me. And it's a total effing lie. But that's what you tell yourself, or what's being told to you. I am so sorry to hear that. How are you doing with that news?
I have to be honest with you and my viewers, or our viewers. I cried immediately when they called me and told me, like tears burst out of my eyes. I don't even know. I can't describe it. It just happened. It's just like this overwhelming feeling of grief. Never met the person. Didn't know anything about her, but I always go to the same thing: as where was somebody at that point to be so desperate in the middle of their workday that they had to do what they had to do. Here's the interesting thing, Dennis. People interacted with her all day long and never saw anything.
And that's on her too a little bit. They do a good job of masking the pain.
Right.
Maybe they have a plan and they're fully executing, and they see an end in sight. The pain is so bad, they're like, this is going to happen today at noon, and I'm okay with that, which is awful because the rest of us are not okay after that. Oh my gosh. I hope you're doing well, because I remember a couple years ago here I'm in Greenville, South Carolina, literally up the street from me is a gun dealer. And a guy went in there and rented a gun and died by suicide like a mile from my house. Didn't know the guy, and it ruined my week. Like I just kept thinking about him.
Yes. So
And then
same thing. Same thing.
it was just like I don't even know this cat, and he's got me in a funk. And that's
I
what suicide does.
Yeah, for us that have experienced it firsthand, like we have, painfully close. And I also think, and the person is gone. There are people that were there that saw it, that had just spoken to that person literally minutes before. And someone I know tried to perform CPR.
Oh,
They closed the office. They left. I will say this is a corporation, and they had grief counselors in the next day. But then they went back to work the next day. And so it's for you and I, we know it's complicated. It's a complicated grief, and it doesn't get solved, if you will, by one grief counseling session. And this is something that is really important to me. Number one, because my dad actually worked for a drug and alcohol treatment center when he died, and no one noticed. So we don't have to become experts, mental health counselors, but we just have to become aware. And yesterday, because of this, one of my coworkers, I was in the office and I'd noticed a difference in her personality. And I came up to her and I was like, "How are you doing?" And she's like, "Well, I got to go do this." I said, "No, how are you doing?" And she just looked at me and she knew what I meant. And she's like, I'm okay. I'm going to get through it." And I said, if anything happens while I'm here, come to my office. It's private. I've got a door if you just need a moment, because I felt something had changed. I don't think it's to that level, but it's just the point of what we can do as humans, as coworkers, as people.
That's so funny because we say, "How you doing?" and they say fine or whatever. "I'm doing good." And then there's a question that went around a couple of years ago. It's a great one. You put a pause in there, a comma, and you say, "How are you doing, really?" And that just takes it like to the next level. Like, all right, come on, cut the crap. Seriously, cut the crap.
That's right. That's
How
right.
you doing? Like, I noticed. And in workplaces, gosh, we're with these people 8-9 hours a day. And if you're working on a project, heck, you're going to, in the night hours. I'll tell you a story about a workplace suicide prevention. I went down to speak at a construction industry event. They have a high suicide rate in the construction industry, high use of opioids, high use of alcohol, and it's just a tough job. And a lot of males. And this woman got up and told a story about her coworker who died by suicide, and she went to the funeral, and everyone was standing there doing the post-mortem stuff, and she said to the family, like, just some kind words, said, "I'm sorry for your loss. She was really trying hard. She was going to therapy, and I'm sorry we're here." And the family members stopped her and said, "Hold on, she was going to therapy?" Like, the coworker knew, but the family didn't. What was happening was the coworker, she explained the story, was this person was going to therapy during business hours, like over lunch. And she would ask her friend, "Cover for me. I may be a little late." And she said, "Why?" She goes, "Well, I'm going to therapy. It lasts about an hour. It takes about 15 minutes. Just cover for me." And she said, "No problem." So the coworker was the only person on the planet that knew she was going to therapy.
I mean, I get that. I think part of that too is like debunking stigma. And I am so excited tomorrow. I'm actually doing a webinar. It's kind of interesting for those of you that are in the medical field or understand telehealth. I am talking about telehealth in the workplace. People don't seek therapy sometimes for stigma. They're afraid that they don't have time to go to a therapist. It's not within their realm of possibility with the job that they have to perform. It may be expensive. They may not have transportation. Many reasons. However, I am really promoting partnerships with telehealth organizations so that businesses can identify a private space within their organization. So if I have a therapy appointment, and I do, and I've gone to my car and taken it because I don't want to be in my office where everybody can hear, or I don't even really like doing it here where my husband is. It's like a private thing, but I love the telehealth aspect, right? And so it's just ease. It's ease. It opens the door for more people to access care. And so I'm talking about that and what businesses should do. But the number one thing we have to do first is educate. Educate why it's okay to need that, what mental health and substance use is. And I think for businesses, showing that, you know what, you don't just work for me, I care about you. And honestly, and just to the, business aspect of it, because let's be honest, there's got to be one. It really helps productivity, helps loyalty to that organization. If you have an organization that cares about you and is going to go above and beyond and be creative and accepting of what you're going through, I'm going to stay with those folks and I'm going to work hard. And quite frankly, where this happened at my previous employer, they were that kind of employer 20 years ago.
Really caring? Is that what you're saying? That they were
absolutely. Well, they were bought out, but it was a group of physicians, and they were just way before their time of caring and going above and beyond for their employees. Now, I left because I was young and I wanted to do something different. I wanted to go back to school, and it was nothing to do with them. I still go there for tests and still consider them family.
Well, they called you. They consider you family too after the event. So they, obviously you left on good terms.
Yeah, yeah, no, but it's important that, to your point of us spending so much time with coworkers and at a workplace, again, it's another opportunity to observe behaviors and help. Because guess what? They may go home. Maybe that's how the person you were talking about the story, they may go home and have no support. That may be the only place where they feel loved or valued.
That's true. Go back to the example I gave. If she went home and told her family, I'm going to therapy, they were like, "What are you doing that for?" Who knows what happened? She kept it from them for a reason. What you're talking about in organizations, and I do a lot of now in a corporate world as well as colleges and civic groups, but corporate world has been increasing in my business fold for speaking. And I always say, if the company brings me in, or any mental health speaker for that matter, not Dennis Gillan, just anyone, right off the bat, it shows they care.
Yeah.
Because they're running into this, they're running towards the bear with this, that's the old joke, run towards the bear if the bear is coming towards you. They're running right towards the problem. They're not laying down and pretending they're dead. And I always say that too. And people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Yeah. And in this day and age, with people job hopping and loyalty out the window, it seems it's a great way to build that goodwill towards your employees is to take on the tough stuff like this and bring somebody in proactively.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think,
reactively.
I did a speaking event at an industry. I will tell you one thing though, that's interesting. And this may not be everywhere. I did a speaking event with a gentleman in one of our rural areas with an industry. All of the shift workers came in, leadership did not. So it, to me, said, you guys might have these issues, but we don't, which I thought was a missed opportunity. The other thing I want to say about it is they had an EAP, an employee assistance program, which for folks that don't know, that is something an organization can purchase, and it gives you a certain amount of counseling, sessions, and they pay for it, or there's a nominal fee. Usually it's 5 or 6, which with a good one. But what we found out during this presentation, and I talked about suicide loss because that's my experience, and the other gentleman with me talked about substance use, and he had been incarcerated and homeless, and we were just being real, which people appreciate.
Yeah.
But after we left, we found out that, first of all, they didn't even know about their EAP. If they did, they didn't know if it was private. They didn't want their organization to know. They saw it as almost punitive in nature, like it was, they were going to find out and they were going to be looked at different, or, who knows. But the biggest takeaway was there was a gentleman there in the room that had tried to take his own life 3 weeks ago and had told no one until we talked. And then he went to HR, accessed the EAP. They called and said, I just want you to know that one person, we were there for a couple hours, one person we touched, maybe more, but that was so important to me. But this organization took the time to do this, and look what they may have prevented.
Well, yeah, it's unbelievable. And thank God that shift worker, they showed up. Now I'm going to get on the leadership for not showing up.
Right.
I had the opposite example. I did a virtual one for a major airplane parts distributor. The CEO was on the call.
Wow.
And he commented at the end, really brought it home and wrapped it up. And I was like, thank you. And that starts at the top down. So
100%.
Yeah. If you're in a management position, again, back to the people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. You get your butts in those seats.
Yes. It was a bad look.
You sit.
And they were walking. You could see them in the window walking by, going out to their cars in their suits, and these are shift workers, and they were just looking in there, and I was I really wanted to go up and be like, okay, you need to be you're a person. You're not any better than these folks. It happens to all of us, but I didn't.
There is a benefit of getting old and cranky like I was at University of Delaware recently, and they had this thing, the sign-up sheet. And what you did is you put a barcode up on the screen, and we made a mistake, or the people I was with, we made a mistake, and we put it up early. Like, here's how you get credit. And the minute they filled it in, they started heading for the door. Now, I'm in the back getting ready and getting pumped up to speak, and these kids are coming out. I start yelling at them. I literally started yelling at them. Like, you need this more than anybody. One day you're going to do a program, and somebody's going to walk out on you. He's like, get back up there. And they still skate. A couple kids wouldn't even look at me, still went out the door. We had about 400 registered, maybe about 100 left. We still had 300 in the seats, and the people that were in the seats were the ones I wanted. They wanted to be there. But those little turds that walked out, I was so mad, and it was hilarious. I was opening the door and yelling at them as they were going down the steps. And
they were like, God, what a mean old man. Yeah, let me get away from him.
That's the mental health speaker. He's losing it. I wasn't losing. I said, come on, man. I was being like, trying to appeal to their sensibilities, just saying this, one day you're going to be up there, because there was another kid up on stage. I said, one day you'll be up there giving a speech. You don't want people walking out. And they were having no part of it. So this is the good part. Now, as I'm getting older, you get like gutsier. I don't know.
Yeah, my husband
I
says you just
saw
don't
those
care
suits-
anymore.
If I saw those suits walking by, I swear to you, I would have like, excuse me for a second, folks. And I would have walked out and given them a piece of my mind, because I don't have that much more time, Jessica.
That's right. That's right.
61 years old. I know. I look 60. Thank you. But I don't have time. If you're not going to be there, and I'm so grateful. Back to let's go positive again. Most of my gigs, there's upper level management right there, right in the room. The owner of the company, construction, they don't leave. They're all in there. It's a safety meeting. Good people. But I wouldn't have it any other way.
I think sometimes people, especially men, no offense, they get it's uncomfortable, right? Like, I don't want to I don't want to talk about my feelings. That's just weird. And you know, or you know, I just need to pull myself up by my bootstraps. We did have another business. Back to your point of being positive. They had all the managers in there with the shift workers, and man, it was incredible. And people were talking, sharing, asking questions, engaged. I mean, the problem now, I'll give you guys a little hint. If you do this, Dennis, you'll agree with me. Don't come in at the end of a shift and present to people. Nobody wants to work 12 hours and then sit and listen to somebody talk about their feelings or suicide or substance use or after they've worked 12 hours. And that was a mistake that I made, or I was invited with someone, so I was just there with them. But we found that if you do it before they go to work, it's better. After that, they're just wanting to go home and relax.
Sometimes it's hard though, because I did one time at a plant, and it was in between shifts. So we had one group getting off, one group coming on, and they shut the factory down for a little bit. And they had to be there. But the other thing is, pay them. Don't make them punch out.
That's right.
And then sit down. They're still at work. So this guy said, stay, and then we're getting overtime. Stay, and we're paying you. Don't punch out until you leave. And that made a big difference. That, again, sends that subtle message. This is important. We're going to pay you to sit for an hour. Say you're making 20, 25 bucks an hour. You're going to pay to listen to this guy. It's that important. And that sent a big message. And you think about it, it didn't cost the company that much in the end in payroll, but it may have saved them. You know, how much money do they lose when everyone has to go off campus to go to a funeral for a coworker?
100%. Or has to continue to go seek care or receive treatment because they waited and it just got to a point where they, imploded. The other thing that I noticed a lot when we were talking to these folks is maybe it wasn't them. There were a lot of people saying, my spouse or my child. So you're not just reaching those workers, you're reaching their extended family. You know what I mean? That they needed those resources to help. We provide resources, community resources when we were doing that, which was great. Some of these folks didn't even know about it. It was a great experience. And I have to admit it was part of it was because the gentleman that was with me's story is so moving and such a story of redemption. And look at me. I'm a 51-year-old white female. These are all dudes, right? This one guy's like, hey, I just get on my Harley and that's how I burn off some steam, and I'm sitting up there in my suit talking. This particular gentleman that was with me was a young man, 30 years old, showed his mugshot.
Whoa.
Talked about where he was and what a terrible place he was and what got him through things. That was so powerful. I will say one thing about me: when people don't judge a book by its cover. When I talked about my dad and showed a picture of my family and what was going on, it was one of these Olin Mills, church family pictures. And I was like, this looks like a normal family, doesn't it? It wasn't. That was eye-opening too.
Everybody has that photo. Look at us. We're all dressed up for Easter.
Yeah, I was horrible. Matching dresses and the whole 9 yards. My grandma made them. Just going to throw that out there. But it was a picture that you would look and say, wow, that's a great, wholesome American family. And it was the most dysfunctional family you could imagine. And so we're all, don't look at someone and assume.
Well, now you got me thinking, because that guy showed his mugshot. Is there a mugshot photo of you out there somewhere, Jessica?
Yeah, there is actually, Dennis.
For real?
Yeah.
All right.
At my worst time in my life, and when I speak, because I speak here some in the state for our mental health department, and I tell that story, and it was the most terrifying thing I've ever done. I did not show it to them. They don't ever want to look at it, to be honest with you. But yeah, there is one. There's two.
That person's gone anyway. That person no longer exists. Don't worry about it. I didn't mean to bring, hit a nerve there, but you talked about early on in our sessions about post-traumatic behaviors. That happens.
Yeah, it was 100%. I give myself grace now. I don't feel ashamed of it
Oh
at
no,
all.
you're not that person, man.
And
I
I
mean,
kind of, it was a sad little girl. That was a sad little girl in those
a
pictures.
trauma-induced, a bender. It can happen to anybody. That's back to the workplace. That's why you got to handle this stuff often, because now you don't early and often. If you don't do anything for mental health for your employees pre and post-vention, then they go off on a bender, and then you find out, you lost this first shift supervisor, and the second shift supervisor, got a DWI because he was mourning the dude. And I do know a guy who got a DWI at a funeral because he was mourning the guy.
Yeah, yeah.
And
I was mourning when I got mine.
yeah, you're
I was
mourning.
mourning.
You're grieving. You're in a sad state of affairs. And
Yep.
maybe it's a wake up call, maybe it's not, or the start of a downward spiral. But look at you now. Look at you now.
Yeah, no.
Back to school.
And honestly, it felt good to be able to talk to these folks. And, I worked at this organization. It was a turning point in my life. They treated me, they believed in me.
Yeah.
And I could actually tear up just thinking about it. That organization was the best place I ever worked. And I want to be able to serve them and do whatever I can.
All right. Let them know we're out there. This is the organization
Yes.
that recently suffered a loss that you
Yes.
used to work at. Would you please volunteer our services?
Already done, Dennis.
Lunch and learn. Tell them about the podcast. What time? What do I wear?
They knew about the podcast, which is weird.
Wow.
Not called and told. People know these things. Maybe your friends do too. Nobody talks about it, but we put this stuff on social media, and so many people have said, "Oh, I know about your podcast. I've seen your podcast. I've seen you and your partner, and wow, that's such great work." I have to tell you, even my husband's ex-wife sent me a message the other day. She's like, "Hey, are you watching the news?" And I was like, "No." And she's like, "There's a lady talking about suicide loss on college campuses. You should reach out to her. You're doing such great work."
Oh, how cool is that?
I mean, not patting myself on the back, but for, when we have these losses, it's a full circle moment because you don't want to believe you went through something that was total hell for nothing, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, when you get feedback about the podcast and someone watches on YouTube, do they ever mention my hair? Do they ever mention how good it looks? I'm in between
They're like, who is
haircuts
that
right now.
good looking man that you're.
Yeah, there's no way he's 61. I had him at 71. No, but we're working on. I'm in between hairstyles right now, so I'm going to ask everyone in the audience to give me grace if you watch us on YouTube at the moment. But that's the vanity that comes with being a
Can I tell you
podcast
a
host.
secret? I didn't know that we had videos on. We have a fantastic producer, so he's done so much with this podcast for us. And I didn't know you could see us. I noticed it one day. I was like, oh my gosh, I've not been wearing makeup. My hair's all a mess. So you will no longer see me on this podcast with no makeup on.
Yeah, you really got to make a mental note. I have a little sticky note here that says, "Do not pick your nose." And the minute the podcast is over, I'm going digging. It's allergy season. I got to clear it out. But there's a YouTube component to this that happens, and people get to see us and hear us if they like, and hopefully they like what they hear because we're being vulnerable. And back to workplace, it's a hard place to be vulnerable when you're working, especially if you're in a position of power or you're moving up the ladder, and all of a sudden. But I've seen it on a military base. The commander of the military base got up there. That's another fine example of what to do. He got up there and he addressed the unit and he goes, "If you ever see my car outside of the counseling department here on base, if you ever see my car there," he goes, "don't think I'm doing an inspection. I'm going to therapy."
Wow.
And it was like, whoa.
I mean, I'm going to give my current workplace a shout out.
Shout out.
And I'm okay for saying their name. It's the South Carolina Office of Rural Health. I feel like that. So we didn't do a whole lot of this work. I came on board next week. I think I've been there 7 years.
Nice.
And built this program, behavioral health program there. And we have expanded our EAP program. We talk openly. We have mental health days, and it's not like, oh, I don't feel good. No, I call and say, I need a mental health day. There's no questions other than, are you okay? Checking on me at the middle of the day. We talk openly about it, and I've seen people that never would have start doing that. So kudos to them. I think it's so powerful when you see people lead by example, and they have. They walk the walk and talk the talk.
From the top down and back to the employee assistance program. That's how I first got introduced to therapy. This is way back, 83, 94. And employee assistance programs commonly referred to as EAPs, or like an HR benefit an add-on. They have gotten really intricate. They've expanded their services. Not only is it the counseling component, which I was leaning towards. I need, at my time with Merck, they had a very generous eight free sessions, and I paid cash to go see my therapist. It's that important. But they had 8 free sessions. Now they do a financial component. They'll help you do your will if you get a good one. There was one the other day with I saw for pet grief. If you lose your dog, which is an awful, or a cat not so much, but dog, yeah. All right, cat people. Note right now.
Emotional support animals. It could be a squirrel.
In
so
general,
keep going.
it could
keep
be
going.
a crocodile. I don't care what it. But a loss was a loss. I got it. I had 2 cats, by the way, when I first got married, and I loved them. And Sophie, but there's so many expanded services they do. There's another one on parental care, because a lot of us are in the sandwich generation. You're dealing with parents and you're dealing with kids. And I just say to anyone out there listening, if you have an EAP, explore what's offered and take advantage of it. I was brought in to speak at a prison, and I spoke to the prisoners, which, talk about a captive audience. They weren't going anywhere. No, that's a joke. I enjoy my prison work. But what the warden said to me, she goes, "You're coming in to speak to the prisoners and the staff, but you're really here for the staff."
Wow. Yeah. That's a tough job. I know here in South Carolina, they're looking for a behavioral health director. The fact that they provide that care within a prison system, you're right. Oftentimes, it's for when you have to, I can't even imagine, we take our freedom for granted, I feel like we do. You ever see folks working on the side of the road and you ride by, and this is horrible to say, but I'm like, oh, thank you, Lord, for, giving me the knowledge and the awareness not to be one of those folks, because I could have been. I just told you I had my mugshot. Now that was county jail, but
we all could be out there in
100%. I don't ever think that. But man, to have to work in it day in and day out in such a negative environment and see things that you would see, and that's got to be extraordinarily tough.
Some of those people are out on the highway picking up litter because of some traumas they didn't deal with properly.
That's 100%. A dentist, I guarantee it.
I got this vision of you, Jessica, going by them and go, "Oh, thank God," and then taking your Chick-fil-A bag and throwing it out the window.
Never. I am not a litterer. I hate that. I will chase somebody down if I see a litter bug.
Here, pick that up. You missed one. No, but seriously, anybody listening to this podcast, anybody, a couple wrong turns, we're right there on the highway with chains around our feet picking up lit. It can happen.
That's right. You are a human being breathing. It could happen. And again, just as a reminder, those folks that do the hard jobs, the dirty jobs, the dirt jobs that probably don't make a whole lot, but they're still there. That's a service job. We got to watch out for folks. Think about it. Look at your coworker today. Look around at all your coworkers and stay aware. No matter who they are, what they look like, they may look like they have it all together. They may be, a beautiful woman, handsome man, rich, poor. It doesn't matter. Stay aware. You could be saving a life. This person, I will say one more thing. The person that died this week, one thing that they told me was that she was more quiet than usual. Just that little tiny thing. That's right. That's right.
So sorry. Another aspect of a suicide you don't realize is when you have to return to the place where it happened.
Oh yeah.
For months, my brother Mark died in our driveway in Valley Cottage, New York. And it was in the car, and for months the car sat there with a tarp over it until we can get rid of it. So every time I went home, I'd pull up, there's the effing car. I was like, "Dad, get rid of it. Here's some justice. You want to hear some justice?" A friend of mine, it was a Corvette. My brother had a Corvette. And this is a kind of a weird story because a friend of my dad's, knowing full well that my brother died in it, said, "Marty, I'll take the car from you. I'll take the car." And I just thought it was weird that we'd give the car to a family member or a friend. And he's a great friend. He's a great friend of my parents. He was a super guy. And he took the car and he lived in Manhattan. And seriously, about a month later, it was stolen.
Oh, gosh.
And I was so happy it was gone. I'll never see it again. He's not going to drive up to visit my parents in my brother's car. It's gone. Somebody stole it. And I was like, poetic justice. That car is gone.
And my dad died in a car too. And they pulled it, the same thing. It was a Pathfinder, a plane a 1988 way back, silver and black. And when that pulled up in the driveway, I said, "Get it out of here. Get it out of here.
Yeah.
Don't want to see it." I kept feeling like I was seeing my dad in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was
Take
horrible.
it to the scrapyard and bash it up and just smush it into a ball and melt it down.
But you're right, those folks, and even when I go get my test at this organization, that's the first thing I'm
gotta
gonna
go
think
back.
about there for the rest of the time that I ever go there. You
So
know.
those coworkers really need some love, and because every day they pull into that parking lot.
Yeah, and I want to say one thing too that stuck with me is one of the girls that I was talking to said that she had talked to her and was seeing a patient there and looked out the window and saw people running and saw her shoes. Just
There's so much stuff that
things
goes
like
back.
that. Yeah, it
Little
just
scenes, and she'll never burn that image.
no.
When my brother Matthew died, it was violent. It was with a firearm, and he came. They brought him back to Valley Cottage, New York, to the funeral home in Congers, New York. And I was like all adamant. I was like, I want to see my brother. I went into the funeral home like with my dad. Like I want to see him. Like I like almost like a Doubting Thomas. I want to put my fingers, in his side
Right,
and feel it.
right.
And the funeral director said, "No, you don't want to see it. You don't want to see it." And he talked me out of it. Thank God he
Yeah.
did. To this day, I owe that guy a huge thank you. That's an image you can't get out of your head.
Yeah, I did see my dad. He did not die violently. He intentionally overdosed. But I know when you do an autopsy, it looks weird. He looked like Frankenstein. And I don't have that vision anymore. I did for a long time. I don't have that
Yeah,
vision
it
anymore.
fades.
I have a vision. My sister found a picture of him in 1982, really short, like swimsuit shorts. And I'm like, wow, that was horrible, but I'll take that image any day. So that's
That
the image
vision.
I have. Him standing on the beach with these horrific, very short 1980s swim shorts. There you
That's
go.
the image we choose
Yeah,
to remember.
I'll
That's
take it. I'll
the
take it.
dad in the Speedo.
No,
Can't get that out of
no,
your
no.
head.
Let me clarify that. It was no Speedo.
It was a banana hammock. What was it? It was like a
I
thong.
got
He was wearing a
no.
thong.
It's just short shorts. That's all I gotta say.
Short shorts. It's funny. I have a pair of short shorts now. I don't know if they're back in style.
They are,
I
but
bought tennis shorts and they showed up. I'm like, oh my gosh! Like you could see the white from my thighs where the other shorts were. I'm like, what the heck are these things?
they were horrible. My husband, I know. You have to get the night. Trust me, I now know the inch, the length.
Yeah, I got to go extra long on these bad boys. I'm like, there's no way I'm wearing these things.
They're like the basketball shorts. Do you remember that? And I'm not going to be
Yeah, from the
inappropriate
80s.
here, but I'm like, how? You need to be careful there. I'm not sure how
There's a
everything
happy
stays.
medium.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
NBA went from like really short shorts, like and then the guys were wearing like these clam digger shorts. I don't know what they were, like capri pants. Somewhere in the middle, it all comes around.
Yes,
All right,
yes.
that's a good spot.
I'll
to end.
find that picture one day. I will show it to
Please,
you
we'll
folks.
post it up there. I want to see
Yeah,
that bad
yeah.
boy. And then I'll show you my tennis shorts one day. No, I'm not showing them. Those are they're in the bottom of the drawer. Like stay there. And I lost the receipt. Maybe one day when I have a grandkid, you're gonna have them. So that's probably a good place to end. We start off with workplace suicide prevention. We end with a little laughter and levity, and that's how it is in our life. It's just if we don't laugh, we cry because it's a tough subject. That's the name of the podcast, and we're coming up. This is the last episode of season 2, by the way, last episode. And if you are listening and you want to be on the podcast, we are recruiting guests for season 3. That's going to happen. That's going to happen. This podcast is too good. We're going to continue with season 3, and we're going to add people to it. And there's other voices out there besides Dennis and Jessica, even those ours are awesome. Our voices are awesome. Just ask me. Very humble. And we're onward. We're onward. If you want to see me speak, go to halfasorrow.org. Please, more gigs, the better. The more people that hear this message, the better. If you want me to come to your town and do that show that we did for Greenville, say the word. That's easily portable. And go to halfasorrow.org. Just as a book now and just fill out that form and we'll take it from there. Jessica, it's been a pleasure. 2 seasons under our belt. Holy mackerel, right?
Wow. Yeah, it's crazy.
It's crazy.
Just getting better. Just getting better.
Well, it got better when we introduced our producer, Tim. That
Yes,
helped a lot.
100%.
Flubbing around. I think I put it on Spotify. I don't even know where. I think I put it in Spotify in Belgium. I don't know where I put it. It's out there somewhere. But Tim came along and said, all right, here's what we're going to do, and buckled us down. So we're very grateful for that. So look forward to it. Season 3. It's a tough subject coming soon. Again, we are auditioning guests. You could put book now on halfasorrow.org. I'll get a hold of you if you want to be on the show. And it's been an absolute pleasure. This has been healing for me to talk about this stuff. And hopefully it has been for you, Jessica.
Yes, absolutely.
And to all those who suffered a loss, no matter how it went down, we feel for you. We feel for you. And we have a place for you. It's called It's a Tough Subject Podcast. Thanks for listening.